You are now forced to drag your father to court to prove that you are his biological daughter. You've always known you are not her dad.
Yes, Your Honor.
I was about 13.
Okay.
And he wanted me to know that I wasn't his daughter.
That in front of other siblings?
Yes, Your Honor. She basically was sort of like saying that.
So your grandmother tried to reassure you?
Yes.
Just basically came out and said one day, I'm not your father. You were daddy's little girl.
Yes. Up until the one summer when I was told that he wasn't my dad.
Mr. Palmer, do you remember this day that she says you gathered everybody up?
Yes, Your Honor. Because I knew all the time she wasn't my daughter, and I just thought it was just time to tell her.
Why? To be kind?
I had another daughter by her mother, and so we was inseparable at first.
She grew up believing she was Daddy's little girl. From her earliest memories, he was the man she waited for, the man she ran to, the man whose approval made her feel safe in the world. Every summer, she and her siblings would travel to his farm, spending weeks living a life that felt whole. She did not question where she belonged. She never had to. In her heart, it was already decided. Then one day, when she was about 13 years old, everything shattered. They were at his place of business, an ordinary day that began like any other. Without warning, he gathered everyone together. The room was filled with siblings, familiar faces, the comfort of routine. And then he said it, calmly, directly. He told her she was not his daughter, not privately, not gently, in front of everyone. The words landed like a blow she did not know how to process. At 13, she did not have the language to explain what that kind of rejection feels like. She only knew it hurt. Confused and desperate for reassurance, she was taken to her grandmother. Her grandmother tried to soften the damage, telling her that there had once been uncertainty, but that in her heart she believed this man was her father. She pointed out the resemblance, the shared features, the way blood seemed obvious if anyone truly looked. Those words helped, but they could not erase what had already been said. A seed of doubt had been planted, not by strangers, but by the one person whose voice mattered most. Until that moment, she had never questioned him. He had treated her like his own. They had spent summers together, done the things fathers and daughters do. She had felt chosen, loved, claimed. And now, suddenly, she was being told that all of it had been based on something that was never true. After that day, she stopped going back. For 3 or 4 years, she stayed away from the farm. She could not bring herself to return to a place where she felt unwanted. Even though her grandmother kept calling, urging her to come back, telling her she belonged, the pain was too deep. When she finally returned at around 17, the relationship was no longer the same. Something had broken, and it could not be repaired by pretending it never happened. Through all of this, he remained unmoved. In his mind, he had always known she was not his biological child. He said he raised her out of kindness, because he had another daughter with her mother and felt it would be wrong to treat the children differently. He believed he had done the right thing by stepping in as a father figure, even if he did not believe he was her real father. He spoke about her mother, about a relationship that once felt inseparable. They had talked about marriage. Then doubt crept in, fueled by friends who warned him she was seeing another man. One memory stayed with him vividly. He recalled driving past a house and seeing a pink-and-white 1959 Ford in the driveway. He saw her inside the car with another man, her leg hanging out the side. That image became proof in his mind, proof that she had been unfaithful. Even though her mother later denied it, even though explanations were offered, his belief never changed. From that moment on, he said, he knew the child was not his, and yet he stayed. He raised her. He played the role of father. When asked why, he said it was simply the decent thing to do. But when she stopped coming around, when summers passed without her presence, he said it did not bother him. He believed distance was natural, inevitable, justified. For her, the distance felt like abandonment. She still believed he was her father. She saw it every time she looked in the mirror. The same ears, the same nose, the same chin. She felt it in her bones. Even after he denied her, she could not stop calling him her dad in her heart. Years passed. She grew up. She graduated without him there. She got married without him walking her down the aisle. She had children of her own, 5 daughters, 1 son. Each milestone carried the same quiet ache. She wanted her father present. She wanted her children to know their grandfather. Even though he insisted she was not his child, she still made the effort. When she moved back home years later, she tried to rebuild something before time ran out. She knew tomorrow was never promised. Eventually, the pain and unanswered questions led her to court. Not for money, not for revenge. She wanted the truth. She wanted the denial to end. She wanted clarity not just for herself but for the generations that followed. In court, her brother stood beside her. He remembered the day their father gathered everyone together and made the announcement. He believed, without hesitation, that she was his sister and that their father was her biological father. He revealed something crucial. Another sibling had been born just 8 days after her. That sibling was unquestionably their father's biological child. The timing mattered. Records showed that her father had another child with his wife born only days after she was born. If he had been present to conceive one child, how could he be so certain he had not conceived the other? Faced with this evidence, he admitted he may have come home on leave during the war, but he insisted he was not in a relationship with her mother at the time. His certainty did not waver. She listened, holding back tears, explaining everything he had missed, the moments that mattered, the years that could never be returned. She spoke about unconditional love, about seeing him as her father even when he rejected her. She asked for one thing, that once the truth was known, she would never have to hear those words again. When the DNA results were finally revealed, the room held its breath. The answer was clear. He was her father. The truth she had carried in her heart her entire life was finally spoken out loud, backed by science, undeniable. In that moment, decades of pain collided with relief. The denial that had shaped her life was over. The judge spoke about breaking generational curses, about how absence and uncertainty can echo through families if left unresolved. Because she never gave up, because she chose love over resentment, her children now had a chance to know their grandfather. What could have been lost was saved, just in time. After the truth was finally spoken, the weight of years did not disappear all at once. It settled differently now. The pain was still there, but it was no longer mixed with doubt. For the first time, she did not have to question her own memories or her own reflection. The man she had called Daddy in her heart had been her father all along. What hurt most was not that the truth had taken so long to come out, but that so much love had been withheld because of fear and uncertainty. She looked at him differently now, not with anger but with understanding. She began to see that his denial did not start with her. It began long before she was born. He had grown up without knowing his own father, carrying a quiet wound he never learned how to heal. When uncertainty entered his life, he responded by pushing away instead of pulling closer. And she, unknowingly, became the place where all that unresolved pain landed. Even after the results, he struggled to speak. Years of certainty collapsed in a single moment. Everything he thought he knew was wrong. The timeline he had trusted, the memories he clung to, the justifications he repeated to himself for decades, all of it was undone by a few words read aloud in court. He did not suddenly transform. Healing was not instant, but the door was finally open. For her, the relief was mixed with grief. She had spent a lifetime hopping for this moment, imagining it, praying for it. And yet, standing there, she could not help but think about all the moments that could never be reclaimed. The birthdays, the graduations, the wedding day where she had waited for him, knowing he would not come. She realized that truth does not give time back. It only gives peace. Still, peace mattered, especially now, especially for her children. She had fought not just for herself, but for them. She wanted them to grow up knowing where they came from, knowing that they were claimed, that they belonged. She refused to let confusion be passed down another generation. If pain had started somewhere before her, she was determined it would end with her. As one story closed, another unfolded in the same courtroom. A man sat before the judge, holding onto fear with both hands. He had an 18-month-old son, a little boy who had become his entire world. He had raised him, cared for him, loved him as his own. But now, doubt threatened to take everything away. The child's mother admitted she had kept a secret. During a rough period in their relationship, she had been unfaithful. She claimed she was certain another man was the biological father. For months, she said nothing. The man had signed the birth certificate. His name was there. His father's name was even part of the child's name. He believed he was building a future with his son. When she finally told him the truth, it was not quietly. It came in anger after a fight, after custody disputes. He was blindsided. He could not sleep. He could not eat. He described the feeling as losing his child while the child was still alive. The boy was still there, still calling him dad, still reaching for him. But suddenly, everything felt fragile. He explained what was at stake. His family had bonded with the child. Elderly relatives with fading memories recognized the boy as their grandson. His older son believed the baby was his little brother. Their home was stable, loving, structured. He feared that if biology erased his role, the child would be taken from the only life he knew. The mother, emotional and defensive, insisted she was telling the truth now. She admitted she had stayed silent because she wanted her son to grow up in a good home. She said the child had looked like him at birth, enough to make her believe it could be his. But when the relationship ended, the truth came out, sharp and unforgiving. Witnesses spoke. A girlfriend described watching the man love the child like his own, financially and emotionally invested, completely devoted. She spoke of how devastating it would be for him to lose the boy. Another man hovered in the background, the alleged biological father, unsure but willing to step in if necessary. The man requesting the DNA test understood the risk. Legally, he did not need to do this. His name was on the birth certificate. He had custody. In the eyes of the law, he was the father, but he needed the truth. He needed to know who he was to this child, even if it meant losing him. When the results were revealed, the answer was not what he hoped for. He was not the biological father. The words hit him like a physical blow. He struggled to remain seated, overwhelmed by grief. 18 months of feeding, rocking, loving, and protecting could not be erased by biology, yet suddenly, everything felt uncertain. The judge reminded everyone that legal fatherhood did not vanish instantly. Custody orders could not be undone in a moment of emotion. Processes existed for a reason. The child's best interest came first. No one could simply walk away with him that day. The law would decide, slowly, carefully. For the man, the pain was raw. He had known love, pure and unconditional, and now he faced the possibility of losing it. For the mother, the truth brought its own consequences. Secrets protected by silence had a way of exploding when finally spoken. Then yet another story unfolded. Another man came forward, claiming he had been led to believe he was a child's father for nearly a year. He had changed diapers, attended appointments, cut the umbilical cord. He had formed a bond he could not undo. The mother now insisted her husband was the biological father and said she had always known. Conflicting stories filled the courtroom. The mother said she had been drugged during childbirth, that he signed papers without her consent. She said she had tried to push him away. He said he had been present, committed, in love. Photos showed moments of intimacy between father and child, smiles, play, ordinary life frozen in time. The husband eventually appeared, confident, certain. He believed the child looked just like him. He admitted to being intimate with the mother during the same time period. The truth was messy. Relationships overlapped. Boundaries blurred. Emotions drove decisions that could not be undone. When the DNA results were finally revealed, the biological father was confirmed to be the husband. The man who had believed the child was his sat silently, absorbing yet another loss. He spoke about his own childhood, about growing up without knowing his father, about how holding that child had healed something inside him. Losing her reopened wounds he thought had closed. Across all these stories, one truth remained constant. Biology mattered, but love mattered too. Secrets caused damage that rippled across generations. And the courage to face the truth, no matter how painful, was the only way forward. As the courtroom slowly emptied, the echoes of those stories lingered far beyond the walls. Each person walked out carrying something different. Some carried relief. Some carried grief. Some carried a truth they had waited a lifetime to hear, and others carried a truth they wished had never arrived. What connected them all was love, imperfect, wounded, misunderstood, but real. The woman who had fought to prove her father was truly her father felt something settle inside her for the first time. She did not feel victorious. She felt complete. The question that had followed her since childhood was finally quiet. She no longer had to defend her existence, her resemblance, or her memories. The man who raised her could no longer deny her without denying the truth itself. That mattered more than apologies, more than explanations. She knew rebuilding would take time. Decades of distance could not be undone in a single moment. But now, when she looked at him, she did not feel like she was asking to be loved. She was no longer pleading to belong. She belonged. That truth stood on its own. Her children watched closely, even if they did not fully understand. Children always sense when something heavy has lifted. They saw their mother stand taller, speak with more certainty. They saw her stop questioning herself. And in that shift, something changed for them too. They would grow up knowing where they came from. They would not carry the same confusion into adulthood. That was the real victory. For the man who discovered he was not his son's biological father, the pain was sharper, more immediate. Love did not protect him from loss. In some ways, it made it worse. He had not loved halfway. He had loved fully, without conditions, without hesitation. Biology did not erase those nights spent rocking a crying baby, those mornings filled with laughter, those moments when the child reached for him instinctively. He left the courtroom knowing nothing would ever be simple again. Courts would decide custody. Lawyers would argue definitions of fatherhood. But no one could tell him that the bond he felt was imaginary. No one could convince his heart that love should simply shut off because of DNA. He understood now that truth can be cruel even when it is necessary. The child, unaware of the chaos surrounding his life, would continue growing, learning, laughing. Adults would make decisions on his behalf, claiming to know what was best. The hope was that love, not resentment, would guide those choices, that the child would never feel like a prize to be won or a mistake to be erased. For the mother in that case, the truth came with its own weight. Keeping secrets had felt like survival at the time. She had believed she was protecting her child, building a stable future. But secrets do not stay contained. They grow. They distort reality. When they finally surface, they leave damage in their wake. She would have to live with knowing that her silence caused deep pain to someone who loved her child as his own. And then there was the man who lost the little girl he believed was his daughter. His pain was quieter, heavier. He had entered the courtroom believing in certainty. He left knowing he had been wrong. Yet, Even as the truth separated him from her, the bond they shared did not vanish. He spoke of his own childhood, of growing up without a father, of how holding that child had healed something broken inside him. Letting go did not mean forgetting. It meant accepting that sometimes love enters our lives not to stay forever, but to change us. He would carry her with him, not as a legal responsibility, but as a reminder that he was capable of loving deeply, even if it cost him. Across all these lives, one lesson repeated itself again and again. The truth matters, not because it always brings happiness, but because without it, pain multiplies in silence. Children sense lies even when they are not spoken aloud. They grow up filling gaps with self-blame, wondering what they did wrong, why love feels conditional. When adults choose honesty, even late, even imperfectly, they give the next generation something priceless: clarity. And clarity brings peace, even when it brings tears first. None of these stories ended neatly. There were no perfect resolutions, no instant forgiveness, no guarantees of healing. But there was movement, there was acknowledgement, there was the courage to face reality instead of hiding from it. In that courtroom, biology was tested, timelines were questioned, documents were examined. But beneath all of it, what was really on trial was love. How fragile it can be, how powerful it remains, and how deeply it shapes who we become. Some walked away with answers they had prayed for. Others walked away with losses they would mourn quietly. Yet every single person left changed. Because once the truth is spoken out loud, life can never return to what it was before. And sometimes, that is the only way forward. She grew up believing she was Daddy's little girl. From her earliest memories, he was the man she waited for, the man she ran to, the man whose approval made her feel safe in the world. Every summer, she and her siblings would travel to his farm, spending weeks living a life that felt whole. She did not question where she belonged. She never had to. In her heart, it was already decided. Then one day, when she was about 13 years old, everything shattered. They were at his place of business, an ordinary day that began like any other. Without warning, he gathered everyone together. The room was filled with siblings, familiar faces, the comfort of routine. And then he said it, calmly, directly. He told her she was not his daughter, not privately, not gently, in front of everyone. The words landed like a blow she did not know how to process. At 13, she did not have the language to explain what that kind of rejection feels like. She only knew it hurt. Confused and desperate for reassurance, she was taken to her grandmother. Her grandmother tried to soften the damage, telling her that there had once been uncertainty, but that in her heart she believed this man was her father. She pointed out the resemblance, the shared features, the way blood seemed obvious if anyone truly looked. Those words helped, but they could not erase what had already been said. A seed of doubt had been planted, not by strangers, but by the one person whose voice mattered most. Until that moment, she had never questioned him. He had treated her like his own. They had spent summers together, done the things fathers and daughters do. She had felt chosen, loved, claimed. And now, suddenly, she was being told that all of it had been based on something that was never true. After that day, she stopped going back. For 3 or 4 years, she stayed away from the farm. She could not bring herself to return to a place where she felt unwanted. Even though her grandmother kept calling, urging her to come back, telling her she belonged, the pain was too deep. When she finally returned at around 17, the relationship was no longer the same. Something had broken, and it could not be repaired by pretending it never happened. Through all of this, he remained unmoved. In his mind, he had always known she was not his biological child. He said he raised her out of kindness, because he had another daughter with her mother and felt it would be wrong to treat the children differently. He believed he had done the right thing by stepping in as a father figure, even if he did not believe he was her real father. He spoke about her mother, about a relationship that once felt inseparable. They had talked about marriage. Then doubt crept in, fueled by friends who warned him she was seeing another man. One memory stayed with him vividly. He recalled driving past a house and seeing a pink-and-white 1959 Ford in the driveway. He saw her inside the car with another man, her leg hanging out the side. That image became proof in his mind, proof that she had been unfaithful. Even though her mother later denied it, even though explanations were offered, his belief never changed. From that moment on, he said, he knew the child